Hi, welcome back to Sahara TV. My name is Rudolph Okonkwo. In the last 1 week or more, the CPC, that is the Congress for People Progressive Change in Nigeria, has been playing the role of an opposition party. There have been so many statements from the party and their leader. Today, we have as our guest, Mr. Rotimi Fashakin, who is the National Publicity Secretary of the Congress for Progressive Change. He was born and bred in Akure, and he went to University of Ife. Mr. Rotimi Fashakin, welcome to Sahara TV.
Doc, it's nice talking to you, and viewers, thank you very much. Good afternoon. It's afternoon in Nigeria.
All right, thank you so much. Let me start by asking you that yesterday or 2 days ago, your party chairman from State Party Chairman, they had a meeting in Abuja, and they declared that they lack confidence in the chairman of the CPC, that is Prince Tony Momo, and they expelled him from the party. They described him as being inexperienced, high-handedness, and corrupt. Which one is he, and which one is he not?
Thank you very much. It's none of the above.
So what is going on with the CPC? What's happening?
Yes, I would tell you straight away, and without mincing words, and we need to put things in proper perspective. What you see as any form of crisis, you know, is a contrived one by the PDP. I will tell you why. You will recall that shortly after the elections, and when the party decided to go for, to go for adjudication of its position in the court that the election was not free and fair and credible, a group of party men, notably from the southeast and the south-south geopolitical regions, came together on live TV and castigated, lampooned the position of the party leadership to go to court, and did all that, and then they were all expelled, you know, for that, for putting the party into disrepute. We later found out that they were prodded into doing that by some elements in PDP. I mean, and by extension, the PDP. In actual fact, they were actually induced monetarily to do that. One of them was Barrister Emeka Okafor, the guy who was the secretary of the renegade group that met 2 days ago to pass vote of no confidence on the party. We had gotten wind of that 2 days earlier. You will recall that on behalf of the party, I sent out a press release alerting the nation of what the PDP-led administration is trying to do again. PDP, over the last 13 years, has pauperized the Nigerian nation, the Nigerian people, and they are also, at the same time, ready to sprinkle crumbs for those who are very hungry and who want to carry the crumbs and eat. You know, they know that they have pauperized the nation by their policy, by their, you know, predilection, I know, their proclivity, you know, they know they have pauperized the nation. So we alerted the nation about what they were trying to do. So it was not surprising to us at all that they came together and that they still carried out that plot. But let me tell you something. And that is something that Nigerians must, Nigerians both within this nation space and in the diaspora, they must get to understand. Under the subsisting CPC constitution, there is nowhere in the constitution that all the 36, I say all the 36 state chairmen can come together to suspend or to dismiss or to expel just one member of the National Executive Committee. You know, they don't have such powers. They don't have such powers to not just one, but to even suspend or expel the national chairman. You know, it is totally sacrilegious.
Yeah.
You know,
now,
it is.
Now let me stop you there, because we will go into the details. I'm happy you cleared that up, because I was wondering, why am I talking to you if you are no longer the national executive member of the committee? But let me ask you. You said that they all got 100,000 naira to do what they did. And I think I speak for many Nigerians when I ask, are the chairmen of CPC so poor that with 100,000 naira, they will change and do things like this? What's going on?
Okay, thank you. Well, you know, in my earlier statement, I did tell you that I did say that one of them, Emeka Okafor, who says he's a barrister, he was, that is from Enugu State, and that he signed as, he read out the communique to the press, and I told you that he had been expelled. He was expelled about a year ago. So, as at the time he held that press conference, you know, on Thursday, he was not a member of CPC. He was only an impostor, you know. And in Senate times, someone like that should have been arrested by the police and locked up, because he was not a member of CPC, and he used CPC letterhead and logo to write, you know, a very insidious things about the executive members, you know.
Now, you mentioned Emeka Okafor, I know, but there were other 31 other members, chairmen of state party, who signed that statement. And in that statement, they also said that Buhari would not only be happy with their action, but that Buhari will have a sound sleep. Is Buhari happy with their action, or did he sleep well last night?
Well, I think you have. I didn't really expect that we will go into this one today. I thought we would go into other ones, but it's okay, no problem.
We'll get to that. Yeah, we'll get to other things. Yeah, but we want to clear this. Yeah.
Because in 2 days' time, precisely on Monday, in fact, it's part of the things I'm preparing for. I shall be addressing a world press conference, you know, specifically on this issue, you know. And when you see the caliber of people that will be at that press conference, you will know whether Buhari was happy with their decision, with what they said or not. What they are doing and saying is laughable. You see, they know it is ultra bias, you know, totally out of their control, you know, beyond their powers to do anything. In fact, they didn't even have powers. Somebody told me and said that you should expel all of them. I said, but do you expel people that are not your members? Check, do a roll call of all of them. They have been expelled for one misdemeanor or the other. So how do you reckon with people that are not CPC members? All of them are disgruntled. You know, they have an axe to grind with the party.
Now let me I understand that. Let me cut you short there and say, okay, these are renegades, they are rogues, in your own words, in your own picture. But they complained about the performance of CPC in the last election. It seemed to be at the heart of their anger. Are you satisfied with the performance of CPC in the last election?
Certainly not. CPC had immense potentials, you know, to do a lot better than it performed during the elections. And I will tell you, it was the conspiratorial attitude, of people like these renegades that contributed to the misfortune of CPC during the elections. Let me tell you, the man at the center of it all, although he didn't show his face, during the news conference, but he's the one that prodded them with money which he received from PDP. He was in the leadership of the party, at the onset, before, but because of his inordinate ambition to be a governor in one of the northern states, he sabotaged, he squandered the immense goodwill that the party enjoyed, that the party had in his own part of the Nigerian and state. And that was part of the things that we are still battling with till today.
Now, before we go into Buhari's statement on the upcoming election, let me look at this crisis in CPC. Raises the question of whether General Buhari has control of the people beneath him. And that has been a constant concern with some Nigerians, especially when he ran the PTF, where he did well as a leader, but they felt that people underneath him, he didn't have control of them. So why is it that as the leader of the party, these things are happening and he seemed not to have control of the people underneath the party?
Now, you need to understand that General Muhammadu Buhari haven't been a soldier, now retired, understands clearly that this is a totally different dispensation. These are dispensation in which the people must be allowed to have their say in all things. It's not for the leader to superimpose his own will, his own desire, his own purpose on that of the people. Let me give you, there are many examples. I mean, like in Katsina, one of Buhari's in-laws contested the election, to be, vied for the party's nomination to be a governor, to be the party's governorship candidate. But you see, the Buhari that people know, and that is still, that we know, was one that did not use his position to unduly tilt the dice in favor of his in-law. So you will see, when you see a stickler to process, for General Buhari, if we all come together and we agree that this is the process that we want to employ in a particular sense, for a particular, to achieve a particular purpose, General Buhari will be the last person to circumvent the process at any stage. And so when people try to call upon him, to intervene, to circumvent the process, you say, no, let the process run through. When party men decided to leave the normal, the ordinary, the normal course of things, the channel available to them, under the party's constitution, under the party's process, for resolution of problems. And they decided to go to approach the courts. Buhari will be the last person to ask them to withdraw such matters from court.
Okay. Now let's go beyond Buhari. Why is CPC such an ineffective opposition party? If you look at Nigeria today, because the PDP controls everything, they don't even. I don't hear about PCP pushing a bill in the National Assembly. It looks like if there is no opposition in Nigeria. Why is that?
Now, you have touched on a very fundamental aspect of our national life. And you need to understand clearly, and that is the question of the structure of the Nigerian state. The way Nigeria is, as Nigeria is currently constituted, is a faulty union, you know, with a leader, a president that is more or less like a monarch in the country. The president controls the armed forces. The president controls the expenditure of the legislature, the expenditure of the judiciary. The president controls virtually everything. The president knows how to unleash the EFCC on you if you are not playing ball, you know, like they did to Alero, you know, do you understand? The president does as many things that, the president is like the all-powerful. And so when you have a situation like that, that is why PDP can boast that for the next 50 years or 60 years, you know, that it will still be in power. I mean, the chieftains, you know, boast like that. It is because they know that, you know, so long the Nigerian nation is as it is presently constituted, you know, they will continue to muzzle opposition. They will continue to have their way in the way, you know, elections are run, and in the final outcome of, you know, of elections, you know. So that is why that's why I told you that you asked a very fundamental question. So the solution to that, or the remedy for that, is for us to insist, you know, on restructuring of this polity. And that is what CPC is standing on. And we believe it was part of our campaign manifesto.
Now
we believe that.
Sorry. Now we are kind of running out of time. So let me briefly, we go through some of the questions. Have you talked to Buhari since he made that statement that if the election of 2015 is rigged, that it will lead to bloodshed? Have you talked to him?
I have a view with which I speak with my leader all the time, okay, but not specifically on this one, because we saw this one was not, you know, was a non-issue. You know, it's an issue that the PDP and the Nigerian president, you know, decided to put so much capital on, you know, decided to politicize, and, you know, and of course, it's really boomeranged on them. They didn't really expect that this would boomerang like this. They thought it was going to be like before, you know, that they exploited every statement Buhari made, and wound around it, you know, very insidious propagandist schemes, you know, and with which the Nigerian nation, the Nigerian people have been hoodwinked in the past. You know, you will recall that sometime in the past, another PDP government, you know, deceived the Nigerians that Buhari said in Sokoto that Muslims should not vote for Christians. You know, the reporter who reported that thing was a Yoruba man, you know, who did not understand Hausa. Buhari spoke in Hausa at that time, you know, and that was, you know, spread round. And you would also recall that during the elections, you know, or shortly after the elections, Dr. Ruben Abati, wrote a piece in The Guardian where he was at that time the chairman of the editorial board. And he wrote on April 22nd that Buhari told all who care to listen at all his gatherings, all the campaign rostrums, that his adherents, his supporters should roast whoever rigged. You know, he wrote that piece, and Buhari had sued him to court for the defamation. The case is in court. Suffice to say that in his statement of defense, he had said that Buhari, said that in Fufude, in Kaduna, at the Kaduna rally. And Buhari does not speak Fufude. He speaks Hausa.
Now, you mentioned Reuben Abati because I have a question, because you've been exchanging words, with him. And I'm wondering, do you think how is he doing his job? Do you think he's winning this PR war with you or with the opposition party? How do you see him at his role as a spokesman for the president?
You see, I think because you just said that I am logged in a kind of PR battle with him. It's not for me to tell whether I'm winning or he is winning. You are so to be the judge. But suffice to say that I will tell you clearly that I have every reason to say that based on anticipating that indeed Reuben got his job as the special advisor to the president on media affairs based on that piece that he wrote for the president. That piece that he wrote on April 22nd, many people took the colossal hogwash, expressed therein, and they ran with it, and many mendacious things were also written based on that, and what do we have today? Nigerians have been deceived, and have been deceived by someone who could not substantiate his claims, and now based on that, the president had to put out his former special advisor on media affairs. Whether he's winning the war is left to be seen. When a man decides to get into the use of indecent words to castigate a former leader, and he's supposed to be the spokesperson for the president, I think that leaves much to be desired. That throws up, many questions as to whether indeed they are winning the war, as to whether indeed, because when someone becomes agitated, it throws, decency to the gutters and gets into gutter language, and that was exactly what Alhaji Lai Mohammed of the National Publicity Secretary of ACN literally told him. And a few other Nigerians too have told him. Have you been hearing him speak since then? I'm sure that it was a great embarrassment to his employers. His attitude, his demeanor, and what he represented should be a great embarrassment to himself too. I'm sure he didn't really think very well on what he wrote. It's a different thing. It's a different thing writing as a columnist. It's another thing writing as the, spokesperson for the president of the nation. It takes a great deal of ingenuity and a great deal of diplomacy. He had not put any of those to use in his response.
Yeah. Thank you. Now let me, before you go, I can't let you go without having you address this recent scandal of $1.1 billion that is circling around the president and people around him sharing money and Dan Atete. So as an opposition party, when something like this is happening, what is the reaction of the opposition? What will you have done if your party is in power today?
Well, first of all, reacting to that, I want to tell you clearly that immediately the news broke, we had a comment in the Punch newspaper, and wherein we said that it should be totally clear to all Nigerians that this Jonathan regime is the most corrupt, the most inept, and the most insensitive regime in the history of Nigerians. I mean, in the history of Nigeria, in the history of political governance within the nation space. You will understand. You see clearly that a regime that is trying to make life more difficult for the people by increasing pump price, is at the epicenter of very, very humongous, corrupt practices. $1.1 billion. We are talking about over 160 billion naira that have been shared among people, and it's going to be swept under the carpet. We talked about Abacha loot. I'm sure half of this, builds Abacha's loot into insignificance. So what are we talking about? This regime, does not really mean well for Nigerians. But it's not just that. The regime is also using a great deal of this divisiveness, to really pit the various ethnic nationalities against themselves. And it's also using religion. We know the way Pastor Ayo Rishejafor, the Christian Association of Nigerian Presidents, who comes from the same from the same geopolitical region with the president, how he has been using his position, as a political, as a religious arm of the People Democratic Party. So these are some of the oddities, that you see around. You see, Nigeria is becoming so complex because when you have bandits, in the top echelon of rulership in the nation, you have a situation. I mean, was it not in those days that a former retired DIG got to the Senate and found out that an armed robber that he had captured, that had been captured before when he was in service, was a senator? I mean, these are issues that are, very, very that really sadden, one. And so when you talk about this particular Dan Etete, this issue of the oil block, it's something that, there it goes, there it will be buried, and nothing will be heard about it anymore.
All right. All right. One last question before we go. Can you tell us if General Buhari is going to run again in 2015?
You can read my lips. Let me tell you clearly. And they should put paid to whatever people are saying about it. General Muhammadu Buhari told the nation last year that was going to be his last. He told the nation last year that he was not going to court, that after spending almost 50 months in court, in the last two elections, that was in 2011, that is in election 2003 and 2007. He said it was that by that 2011 we wasn't going to court. But the party felt that it would be helpful for the nation's jurisprudence that the elasticity of our electoral laws could be put to test, So we went to court, and he didn't say because he's the national leader that he will not accede to the unanimous opinion of the party leadership. You know, I believe that the agitation, you know, that we seem to have concerning his contest. I mean, well, he's contesting in 2015 or not, will not be there. Will not really be necessary. You know, if by 2015, you know, there is a better lease of life in the economy, and that the party leadership feels that it should rest. But I'm sure General Buhari, as a Democrat, you know, is totally ready at the service of his nation at any time. But left to him as a person, he doesn't want to do any electoral contest again, you know. But between now and 2015, you know, we are talking about 3 more years. Anything can happen in politics. In fact, 1 month is, you know, is a long time in politics. So I would just say that we cross our fingers, you know, we sit cross-gartered and wait for what will happen by that time, you know.
All right, Mr. Rotimi Fashakin, thank you so much for coming to Sahara TV.
Thank you, brother.
And we will keep in touch with you and as these stories develop.
Thank you, brother. Thanks.
All right.
Cheers.
So
nice talking to you.
Yeah, thank you. That was the National Policy Secretary of the Congress for Progressive Change in Nigeria.